episode 402. I will be talking all about tonight's AEW Dynamite live from Detroit, Michigan at the Little Caesars Arena, where titles were on the line and who walked out of the steel cage as the winner. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Welcome, Wrestling Fanatics. It is time for a brand new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I am Lance Brock. It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. It is time to talk about an all-new episode of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite on TBS. And I believe the season finale of AEW All Access. But first things first, tonight AEW Dynamite was live here in Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City, Hockey Town, whichever you want to call it. But the unfortunate, sad news about tonight is that I was not watching live at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, but instead I was watching right here at the 360 Studios in Taylor, Michigan. Would much have rather have been there live at LCA, watching Dynamite live, Rampage, but unfortunately it did not work out this time. Luckily, I have seen AEW live once. Last year, Blood and Guts, which right after Blood and Guts was the 300th episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, featuring a special appearance from original 360 Wrestling Fanatic co-host Tony. You can go back in the archives and listen to that podcast, which we recorded on the drive home from Little Caesars Arena after watching Dynamite, Blood and Guts, and AEW Rampage featuring the Royal Rampage. And just to talk about that real quick, that was my first time seeing AEW live. I thought it was great, and won't get into it too much though, because like I said, you can go back and listen to that podcast. But I thought it was a great night. AEW does a great job having a live show, and the crowd was hot the whole night, especially since it was Blood and Guts, the two rings, the double cage, Sammy Guevara taking that insane bump off the cage through the timekeeper's table after being thrown off by Eddie Kingston. It was a great night. Like I said, that was my first time seeing AEW live. It was my 5th overall wrestling show at Little Caesars Arena. I've been there 4 other times for WWE. been to 2 SmackDowns, 1 Raw, and a house show. And so far, Little Caesars Arena is a great place to watch live wrestling. Very nice arena. Hopefully next time AEW comes back, might be able to go, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And now let's get to tonight, May 10th, 2023, Little Caesars Arena, Detroit, Michigan. I know I mentioned that about 1,000,000 times already on this episode, but tonight's commentators are the legendary Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, Michigan's own Excalibur, by the way, and the Human Suplex Machine, Taz. We kick off Dynamite here, which was a pretty good crowd. And on WrestleTix on Twitter earlier, there was some tickets available when I checked. I want to say that might have been around 5 o'clock. But I would say for the most part, they did have a pretty good crowd. Was not a sellout though, but still had a pretty good crowd. I don't remember what the Blood and Guts attendance was right off the bat. I'll have to check that out. So I'm not sure if it was up or down from last year. And we start things off. Actually, I have to admit, the first thing I noticed about tonight's episode of Dynamite was that the red, white, and blue ropes were gone. Back to the all-black ropes. Maybe it's just me, but, and I'm not saying I'm mad about it or anything, or upset, but I miss them though. I like having the red, white, and blue ropes. I know probably a lot of people they probably don't care about what color the ropes are, but I do for some reason. I like seeing like different color ropes like that, and I like the red, white, and blue, but I don't know if it was just for tonight or if they're going back to the all black ropes full time now. And we start things off with the Double Jeopardy match. The Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli taking on one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, the Lucha Brothers, Rey Fenix. And the rules are, if Claudio defeats Fenix, the Blackpool Combat Club will get a shot at the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. If Fenix wins, he will get a shot at the Ring of Honor World Championship. We kick things off here in Detroit with, I thought, a pretty good match between these two. But it is Claudio Castagnoli getting the win, defeating Fenix. So Claudio gets the Ring of Honor World Tag Team title shot, and Excalibur brought up where he gets to choose who his partner will be, either Wheeler Yuta or Jon Moxley, to face the Lucha Brothers for the titles now. And Excalibur gets something in his headset, and he's surprised by it. And we go to the back, and we see the AEW return of Miro. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember for sure when the last time was we have seen Miro on AEW television. But we see him in the back, and the remarkable Renee Paquette tries to get a word with him, but he doesn't say anything, and he walks right into the office of Tony Khan. And next up, the AEW World Tag Team Champions are in the ring. FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood. And they ask Mark Briscoe to come out. But instead, we hear the music of Triple J, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Saddam Singh. They come down to the ring. And FTR says that they are using Mark Briscoe. And then Mark Briscoe makes his way to the ring. He has a bottle of something and some cups. And when he gets to the ring, he says the match that will take place at AEW Double or Nothing between FTR and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, he will be the special referee. And he wants them all to drink. So he starts pouring the stuff in the cups. But then at this time, Sanjay Dutt spits some of whatever that is into the face of Dax Harwood. And then the two teams get into it. And Mark Briscoe is trying to break up the fight. Dax Harwood being blinded from having that drink spit in his face, not knowing that it's Mark Briscoe, grabs him and gives him a pile driver. And Cash Wheeler tries to tell him that it was Mark Briscoe. And then Triple J exits. And then Dax Harwood realizes what he did. And in the back now, we have, once again, the remarkable Renee Paquette in the back, standing in front of Tony Khan's office. And we see another return to AEW at this time, Thunder Rosa, and she also walks right into the office of Tony Khan. And we will hear from Tony Khan a little later on. So I'll wait till then to give my thoughts on this situation. Next up, it is a title match here in Motor City, Hockeytown, Detroit. The AEW International Championship on the line. Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy taking on, representing the Jericho Appreciation Society, Daniel Garcia. And in this one, did another good job of selling the hand injury of Orange Cassidy that he suffered a few weeks back. And I'm glad that they have been really selling this and keeping it going, and they just haven't forgotten about it. And once again, Orange Cassidy delivers, having a really good match. And then he defeats Daniel Garcia, rolling him up to retain the AEW International Championship. I said this morning on GMWF. I think Orange Cassidy is probably one of the best champions, not really even in just AEW, but maybe all of pro wrestling today. I am a big fan of Orange Cassidy, and since he has had the AEW International Championship, he has been having really good matches with everybody he has stepped into the ring with. So still AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy. And I didn't bring this up, but we see Chris Jericho in the back being interviewed by Renee Paquette, and he brings up the restraining order, and he explains that Adam Cole cannot be anywhere near him. So if Chris Jericho is on the show, in the arena, in anywhere, Adam Cole cannot be there. And then we see Roderick Strong, and he challenges Chris Jericho to a match, but not just any other match, a Falls Count Anywhere match. And Roderick Strong has some paperwork of his own because he says that Adam Cole may not be able to be in the building, but his paperwork says that the Jericho Appreciation Society is banned from the building as well. And he hands Chris Jericho the paperwork. I apologize, I just realized, sorry for interrupting, but I was going to go live, but I guess I'm just used to recording. I just started recording just in case, and just now halfway through the podcast already, I just noticed I'm recording and I'm not live, so unfortunately, no live episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight. I don't feel like starting over live, so just doing this recording one. Sorry, I apologize about that. And next up is our No Holds Barred match, honoring the House of Black, Julia Hart, taking on Anna JAS, representing the Jericho Appreciation Society. And these two, I thought, actually had a really good match here. Of course, they had weapons in this one, and a lot of steel chairs. The finish is Julia Hart locking in the Heartless and gets the win with a submission, defeating Anna Jay in this No Holds Barred match. And next up, we see the House of Black in a open house rules match, taking on the Best Friends and Bandito. And this I thought was a pretty good match here. And one of the rules is that the opponents get to pick a rule. So Trent says no creepy witches at ringside, meaning Julia Hart. And the House of Black are victorious, retaining the AEW Trios Championships. Brody King pinning Chuck Taylor with Dante's Inferno. And post-match, we see Kyle Fletcher of Aussie Open lay out Orange Cassidy in the back. And time for the main event of the evening. Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, steel cage match. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, is on commentary. And then we see the BCC and the Elite get into it at the beginning of this main event steel cage match. Very good match here, I thought. Of course, it was violent. We see a barbed wire chair, Kenny Omega hitting the V-trigger on Jon Moxley and going through the cage. And Moxley goes out, grabs a screwdriver, and then at this time, Don Callis goes in to the cage in the ring. Kenny Omega hits the one-winged angel. But then at this time, we are shocked what we see at this time. And it is Don Callis stabbing Kenny Omega in the forehead with the screwdriver, betraying someone that has said many of times that is just like family to him, that allows Jon Moxley to pin Kenny Omega to get the win in this brutal steel cage match. And I am not quite sure what is going to happen next with this, because it didn't really look like too much like that Don Callis is joining the Blackpool Combat Club, or at least as of right now it doesn't. But the camera did show the announce table, and Bryan Danielson did have a big smile on his face. That doesn't necessarily mean that Don Callis is joining the BCC. Danielson could be just kind of like smiling, laughing, like that was your family and you can't even trust him. It could be something like that, or you never know, it could be where Don Callis is joining the Blackpool Combat Club, but then they will have to think of a way to explain this with the attack a little while back and that scar that is on the forehead of Don Callis from the BCC. But I was listening to Post Wrestling, and John Pollock and Wei Ting were saying about now that Don Callis has bled with the BCC, maybe he feels closer with them, and that's why he would join them. But who knows? We will have to wait to see next week on Dynamite. And then right after tonight's Dynamite in Detroit was the season finale, or at least I'm pretty sure it was, of AEW All Access, focusing not quite as much on Sammy Guevara this week, but a little bit. And Ty Mello, the tag team street fight, her and Anna Jay taking on Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale was focused on, where Ruby's face was a bloody mess, and also the Young Bucks being on the show in their hometown of California in Los Angeles at the Kia Forum, which was also the in-ring return of Adam Cole. So tonight I thought it was once again a pretty good episode of All Access, and I hope that it does come back for another season. I don't know if the ratings were real great, but I hope it does. And I almost forgot to mention, I was going to talk about the Tony Khan situation. We did hear about Tony Khan, or hear from Tony Khan, I should say. And earlier in the day, I did see on the news sites that there's supposedly next week the new AEW show Collision will be announced. And it does seem to be going to happen next week. We heard from Tony Khan, And the way he made it sound is that he was talking about how there are wrestlers in the back there at AEW that aren't on TV. So it would make sense that he is going to announce a new show next week on Dynamite, which people are saying it's going to be this new show, AEW Collision, which the rumors are saying this is going to be the AEW brand split. And that's when CM Punk is coming back, and this new show is going to be kind of centered around Punk. So possibly the two returns we saw tonight, maybe Miro and Thunder Rosa, are going to be a part of this new show, Collision, which is supposed to be airing on Saturday nights. But we will have to wait and see to hear the official announcement from Tony Khan next week on Dynamite. So overall tonight, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it live in person, but I thought Dynamite was really good show once again this week. Here in my hometown, it seemed like we had a good crowd here tonight. And that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 402. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. It is appreciated. I hope to have more episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic coming at you real soon. And we'll be back right here tomorrow morning for the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.